And welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, featuring my man Anthony Schlegal right here on the Big Play Network. Man, week 3 of college football is in the books, and my goodness, Schlegs, there's a lot of people that love to complain. People love to get angry. They like to get upset about things.
Why not?
Seems like finally Buckeye Nation maybe could take a collective sigh of relief, as it feels like things are all kind of right in the world on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Bob, it's great to be with you. And what a great game, 63-10, Western Kentucky. We had some questions before last week. I swear the Fox announcers were listening to this podcast, Bob, because a lot of things that they talked about was exactly what you and I discussed here last week on the program, or as Pat says, the program. Anyways, that being said, here's the deal. One thing that I really loved about this, besides all the things that we're going to get into, Kyle McCord celebrating with Devin Brown after he threw his touchdown. Listen, awesome. Man, competition breeds excellence, but guess what? Celebrate each other's success. And I think that Ryan making this, planting the flag and making the decision, Kyle's the guy, they executed really, really well. They played complimentary football, as we like to say, especially in that second quarter when you score 35 points, Bob.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to be honest. You start the game off, touchdown, you're feeling good, give up a little bit of a drive. And me coming into this game, offensive, like they should be able to move the football. Yes. Western Kentucky's defense was not great. They're going to throw a lot of crap at them. So I was worried about the potential for some negative plays. And yeah, Kyle had a fumble. There was some stuff that maybe wasn't great, but I was really more looking at the defensive side, which people are like, how could you think that? Why would you focus on the defense? Like, you know why? Because Western Kentucky scores on everybody. Yes. Their offense is proficient. Austin Reed, you saw him at quarterback. The guy can throw it. He can run it. He's a weapon. And their Malachi Corley, their receiver, very, very talented. Like he's an NFL quality receiver. You saw how thick he was, thick legs, strong dude. Very. They made the point on the broadcast, very Debo Samuel-esque. Like he's a run after catch dude. And so I was curious to see if the defensive backs, how they would hold up against it. I thought this would be their best challenge. And I thought Igbeneusen, I thought Hancock, I thought Burke all played really well. And the emergence of having Hancock in the slot to be able to go to that pure 3-corner look, I think is something that's going to pay dividends down the line. But you couple that, giving up 10 points, offensively you score 63. And I don't know if there's really a whole lot to be upset about. You felt like you should have scored this much. But really, Schlegs, you look at the defensive side of the ball, that to me was the thing that was the most impressive, because this was a team that could score on just about anyone. And we talked about giving up the big plays, and that never really happened in this game.
No, I mean, you're spot on. And here's one thing I want to talk about that too. The reason, first off, better DB technique. So hats off, Tim Walton, Periolano, like it's a lot better. The other thing too is last year we had a lot of injuries in the secondary. This year, they're healthy. They know what to do. Josh Proctor was back in this game. But the DB technique, that also goes to practice, guys. You control your own development, and that's competition. That's good on good every single day. You mean to tell me that entire wide receiver room isn't making these D betters? You know it for a fact. I just watch Burke. He's not going through the man to get to the ball like he's going around him. His vision and his ability to break.
Reaching around him, Schlegs. You're the master at that.
Oh, I am fantastic at that, Bob. As you know, I'm a state champion wrestler. That being said, their technique is significantly better. And here's the one thing too, right? There's negatives in this that we see, and everybody can nitpick things. And I'll say this on a real quick snapshot, okay? 3rd and 10. And I tweeted this out. We got a quick break here coming up. 3rd and 10. Why are we playing man? Okay, there's a read there. I understand what he's trying to do. My thing is make him get 9. But on that play, it was an execution failure. Proctor should have helped. When the guy came in, they motioned one in. He should have helped the guy. But you know what the best takeaway from that was? Michael Hall ran 17 yards down the field and made a tackle. They're playing. See, again, there's negatives, but there's also positives. We can clean up that execution, though I don't necessarily like to call in 3rd and 10. I'd rather just keep everything in front. But that's one where you can see a negative, but there's positive. And they were all playing very fast. And that was one of my big takeaways from this game, Bob.
So we're going to get into a bunch of other stuff. There's a ton of things going on, obviously, this week. The week in college football, which there was no ranked versus ranked matchups this week. However, watch Florida State have a pretty good game. You watch Colorado have a pretty good game. I watched Alabama have a pretty tight game. And heck, even Texas, Schlegs, when it's 10 7 with Wyoming at half.
Right.
You know what? Everybody gets so worried and concerned when you have tight games. That's part of football. That's part of sports. There's so much going on. So we're going to break down this week's top 10 matchup. It's going to be a dynamite one in South Bend. We got Coach Prime and his shades and how that maybe worked in Colorado State's favors. They didn't get the win, but man, they punched up and did a great job. We've got some listener questions, but we're going to break down this Western Kentucky game as the Buckeyes took care of business 63-10 in their most impressive win yet of the season. We got that coming up next. It's the Bobby Carpenter Show featuring my man Anthony Schlegal here on the Big Play Network. Bobby Carpenter Show coming back at you. Ohio State victory 63-10 over Western Kentucky in the shoe. Went on the road against Indiana to start the season, 2 home games. Now going back to the state of Indiana, Schlegs. They're going to be taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I believe they are undefeated against Notre Dame, heading back to that 95-96 home-and-home series. Played them in a couple of bowl games. I think 5-0 in a row. Now heading back for the first time here since 96 to South Bend.
Right.
But the big question was coming in, like, how good was Kyle McCord? What was he going to look like against Western Kentucky? He looked fantastic. He did everything you asked him to do. 19 of 23. Granted, the receivers were open, but he did a good job moving guys with his eyes. You saw that maturation. You saw that progress. He seemed like a guy that was more confident. Will he be able now to carry this over from Western Kentucky, and will this travel to South Bend?
Yes, it will travel. And I think sometimes too much as fans, this is even a strength conditioning. This is people that want to go get in shape, right? We want the end product at the beginning, man. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we just saw
because we live in a microwave society. I want it now. Don't make me wait for it.
But you know what, though, man? That's when you put it on that black zone, it's going to soak in the flavor. And guess what? You wait about 35 minutes or you put it on the Traeger. It's coming out, man. It's got all the juice and it's exactly what you want. It just happens to take 45 minutes. But guess what? This will travel. And in this game, you saw Marvin and Emeka. And I love the analogy that Heartline talked about, and they talked about on the broadcast, and running hurdles and the timing and all these things have to happen. And that's why naming Kyle before this game was vital, because he got the majority of the reps, and he got the majority of the reps in the game. So that way you can go in, right, and have that. I mean, we all heard it, man. Ryan Day said, I'm going to ratchet it up right here. Lincoln Hawk style, boom, flips the hat over the top. I'm bringing out some stuff, and he ratcheted it up. And now you have the offense starting to come together. And here's the other thing, too, that I liked about it. I don't like stretch into the boundary. But you know what? Stretch when you're in the middle of the field, because our hatches are so wide, it worked. And you saw that. But you also saw it because you started hitting the inside run. Well, now they start coming in, right? Oh, now, boom. Now I stretched it outside. We get the edge. Now what are we going to do? You saw him try to play zone on Marvin, right? Guess what?
That's a bad idea.
Bad idea, especially when you have the safety in the corner at the same level. That is not going to work. Just so everybody knows, when you see DBs on the same level, that's a bad idea, especially when you got a guy that can run 23 miles an hour in Marvin Harrison Jr. So there was a lot of really good things. The timing is coming together. The running of the football is coming together. You have people in the building preaching what you need for this upcoming game, and that is violence. That is people that displace other people, that is man movers, and we're starting to see a little bit of that come together, Bob.
We really are, and it was good. It was good to see that on the offensive side of the ball, getting some of those man movers going. You rush for 208 yards. You can only be so upset about that, being able to move the football. I think that helped open up the passing game. And listen, this Western Kentucky defense wasn't great. Notre Dame is going to be a much more formidable test. Yes. They're much better up front, but it's always good to have confidence. And you know what you saw? You saw Travion Henderson. I mean, he got the bulk of it, getting 13 carries for 88. But how about our guy Chip Traynham, man?
Boom.
Boom. You saw that explosiveness, and people are, wondering, who is this guy? He came in from he was from Akron-Hoban, but he went to Arizona State. He transfers in. We've got all these great running backs. Why give him the ball? Because you saw that home run threat ability. And when you can have him on the field, when he can lead block, he can play a little H, you have 2 backs on there, or he can be a guy that is a primary runner. It gives your offense a lot of versatility. And that's another thing you keep seeing with Ryan is the versatility. And that may be tough, I think, initially to kind of figure out what you're really good at, what's your bread and butter, how do you operate? But also it gives you then the ability later as you begin to master this to give defenses a lot to think about and a lot to look at. So you saw the versatility in the offense. I thought Kyle played really well.
Yes.
And it's amazing, like the bump that you get confidence wise in life when you know that you're the man. Because I watched a guy go out there, Schlegs, that looked poised, that looked impressive, that had a command over the offense.
Absolutely.
And like you said, wasn't afraid to go celebrate with his teammate and share in their success. You can compete with guys, and you know this. In our room, you, myself, AJ, like every one of us want to make every tackle, get every sack, get every interception. But there's nobody happier than when the dude that you're pushing and he's pushing on you, dudes pushing on dudes, Schlegs, that those guys are able to then ascend because of that competition. And that's great. And you can share the success. And I'm glad Devin got to play. I'm glad he played well because the reality is he may have to come in a game and he may have to play. And there's a lot of people wondering, like, well, why was Devin getting many reps? Now you start asking the question before, like, well, why was it ever a competition? Look how good Kyle looks when you give him all this time. Well, you got to get that guy ready, and that's critical. And so the next question that we have to get to.
Hey, real fast on that. Yeah. You said chip. Hopefully they caught this. They ran chip on an inside zone, but on an inside dive play.
Yep.
And it was Chip and Trevion in the backfield. And I believe Trevion went wide. I mean, guess what, guys? That's going to be inside where it's potentially a pass. There's a lot of things that they can do off that. Just having them in the backfield gives them versatility. And also, guess what else will travel? Cade Stover will travel. Because if they start to do some things
tomorrow, Farmer Gronk.
Farmer Gronk, man. Hey, first off, 28 points in 8 minutes, guys. Complimentary football, and he scored. He got 40 yards on that pass that set up a Mecca. They scored in 22 seconds. That's what they can do. But he's also a vital piece in this. So you're starting the pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together for him. All right, next one. Let's go.
No, and I'm glad you got Cade in there because that's important. You talk about all the facets, the wide receivers, the running backs. Sometimes we forget that tight end. The Buckeye defense, they've got a big test now because Sam Hartman looks pretty good.
He does.
This is a Notre Dame team, and I watched Tyler Buckner play for Alabama. Oh, goodness gracious, Lord, they need some help down there. But Sam Hartman gives this offense an added element that they didn't have.
Yeah, he does.
I still believe that Ohio State is superior to Notre Dame on the perimeter when you start talking about athletes. And you start talking about, DBs versus wide receivers. Ohio State has elite athletes, and I believe they've recruited at a higher level. However, as we get into this and as we take a look at it, Sam Hartman gives them the ability to stretch the field. So this is going to be a different test. And I'm curious to see if Marcus Freeman plays it the same as he did last year, or if he's more aggressive this year, knowing he has an offense that may be able to score and maybe keep pace with Ohio State based upon what we've seen.
Well, to your point, Bob, and coming from this game, and I think that we have to share with everybody the most impressive thing about the Silver Bullet defense. And I'm going to give you a quick stat line. 2 sacks, 8 TFLs, 6 PBUs.
A lot of pressure, too. A lot of pressure.
2 INTs with zone, Bob, right?
Yes.
Like, again, the pick, and I forget, hey, guess what? Wild Turkey 101 double on the plane. I didn't get to see Jermaine Matthews take it to the house for 58 yards. So I'm sorry. However, Talik Williams scored a touchdown. Still should have had a pick and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. That's on him. I thought you played running back still. I'll give you crap when I see you. But that's a stat line. And guess what, man? 11.5 pursuing. That's why I wore this effort shirt today, because they played with relentless effort. And you know what? The defense didn't look complicated. They brought pressure and played man, but they also played zone. When Steele got that pick, he rerouted the seam and expanded to the flat because that's where the vision took him. Because if you're in that, you're going to make him throw to the wide side of the field because it's a harder throw. And he stepped right into it. Great pick. The guys played fast, and they played with great fundamentals. And another thing, too, man, don't sleep on Steele. Steele is an excellent, excellent open field tackler. And I thought our guys did a really good job of surrounding the ball. That's how Hancock got that fumble. Igba Newsom, I think, got the fumble recovery. So they're playing really fast, Silver Bullet style defense. And guys, guess what? Side nugget, they've only given up 20 points. So, Bob, that goes into your question about Notre Dame. And let's remember this. Last year, you had Tyler Buckner, as you alluded to. The reason we won that game, besides the fact that we're far superior in talent-wise, last year, CJ, second year, absolute dog, we won third downs, 3-13 and 7-13. So over 50%. for us. They had 3 first downs. Now, here's the thing, Bob. You have a 6 foot, 233-pound running back. You have an offensive line that has been together that are all 6'3", 6'4". There's a guy on there that's 6'8", 322. They are earth movers. They like to run the ball inside the tackle. I mean, listen, man, that if I had another shirt, I'd rip this off and it would be a toughness one, because this is the most Michigan-esque team outside of Penn State that you will face. You got Penn State October 21st. Right now, Marcus is going to run the football. So it will come down to this: 3rd and what? If you can stop them on 3rd down or stop them on 2nd down, keep it 3rd and 6+, you're going to have a shot. But Sam Hartman already has over 1,000 yards this year, Bob. He has 13 touchdowns
last game.
0 picks. They haven't really played anybody. Let's also say that. So they've also played 4 games to R3 because they played in week 0. So that I do believe Marcus is going to take a page out of the old Trestle book, but that page only works if you can run the ball and convert first downs, which means defensively you got to get off the field, Bob.
I think you were talking, Schlegs, about a mistake-free, opportunistic offense.
Oh, say it, baby.
A relentless defense and superior special units.
Yes.
I believe those were the 3 things that you were looking at with Jim Tressel. And so that, like you said, is what Marcus Freeman will try to do. But to do that, it's winning on 1st and 2nd down. And so as we focus on 3rd down, which, by the way, the Buckeyes much better on 3rd down in this game defensively. What'd you say? 3 of 15 is what Western Kentucky was offensively. Conversely to Ohio State, 5 of 10. Anytime you're hitting 50%, you're good. And so they're starting to climb out of that hole that they had against Indiana. It's going to take some time. And Notre Dame is going to be good. Believe me, they're going to be out there, and they're physical, they're tough. I don't believe they have the athletes that Ohio State potentially does on the perimeter.
Have size though, Bob. Their guys are their slot guys 5'10", but the other dudes are 6'1", 6'2", 200+.
Well, that's
what
big.
They do. Their possession, but they're not fast like our guys.
But they're not fast, and that's why I was like Jordan Hancock. He's a 6 foot guy.
Yeah.
David Igbenusson, 6 foot guy. Like Denzel Burke, maybe a shade shorter, but those guys are tall. They're big corners. They're tough. They're physical. And so I'm not necessarily as worried about that as maybe other people would be. And I was talking to Igbenusson about this the other day with Cold Tub Talk, Schlegs, and just how much he reminds me of Jeffrey Okudah and some of the things that he can do and how physical he can be, trusting his speed because the guy can fly. And so it's going to be a big challenge because Sam Hartman gives them that element to now stretch the field both horizontally with the pass and then also vertical down the field. So they're going to have
Who doesn't like that? Horizontal and vertical. Girth and length, Bob. Yeah. Is that what you saying he does? That's him. Shower and a grower, this Sam Hartman guy. You know how you do that? You hit him. You pound him in his face, Bob. That's what they got to do.
That's your girth to length ratios. That's what you're working with right there. And it may be 1-to-1. It may be a straight square, for heaven's sake.
Oh. Who
knows? But the pressure up front, and they didn't have the sacks. Like you said, just 2 sacks. But I watched, and they even talked about it on the broadcast, about how they were getting pressure. They were flushing the pocket, and Austin Reed was having to move, but they just weren't getting those sacks. And so it's going to come. I hope that this is a breakout game for JT. I hope it's a breakout game for Jack. I hope Kenyatta Jackson does a great job. Caden Curry, great job. Like these guys are going to get there. It's just sacks come in bunches. They're like turnovers, but that to me is going to be the difference. Can they stop the run on 1st and 2nd down to set up Sam Hartman for those long 3rd and 6.5, 7+? Yes. If you're putting him in those, that's winning football for you. And then ultimately, when you get in those 3rd to 6 to 7, can you get pressure then at that point? Are you going to be able to force him off the spot, force him to move? Can the DBs ratchet up and not give up the big play? They didn't do that last year. I don't believe they will. And then we can get to the offensive side because this will be the first time that they're going to be in really a fairly hostile environment. It may be not quite like the movie Hostel where that gets really scary in a hurry.
Yeah, that's kind of bumpy, yeah.
But Notre Dame, I think, like you said, they're going to try to slow the clock down, play a little bit of Jim Tressel ball, but Kyle McCord in that offense, being in an environment that will be loud, how tough is that going to be and how much different will that be than it was before?
Well, great point. And I also want to mention this about the defense real fast before I answer that. Last year, we gave up 4 explosive plays, passing wise, 54, 32, 31, 22. I don't see that happening this year.
Gosh, did we really? Was it that bad last year?
100%, man. For 100, I think he was 10. What is he? He was 10
There
of
were
18.
missed tackles. That's what missed tackles was a lot of it.
He was 10 of 18 for 177. Four of them were on 139 yards on 4 plays. So again, I don't see that happening. But to answer your question about the offense, it's going to, again, my favorite matchup, right? Our front seven, both sides, man. Like, that's it, right? These type of games, these physical games like this, these blue bloods, powerhouses, we see it, right? Week in and week out. Who can run the football and who can stop the run? And that's what it is. And so offensively, are we going to be able to do that? Because if we can, and we can do it effectively, it's going to open up everything else. Now, we have enough. I don't believe that Notre Dame can hang with us. However, I want to give you this stat, Bob. They have 6 sacks, 5 picks, 7 forced fumbles. They will hit you. They are opportunistic defense, like you mentioned. And so I think that how you can do that, how you can soften them up, is the body blows that come from being able to run the football effectively. That will set up Cade and Emeka and Marvin and Julian. That's what will happen.
And they've got to do that, controlling the game with the run, which is, I think, something that people underestimate with Ryan a lot. He's a quarterback, so you always think throw. He understands that for games like this, that's why they've been working on that run. That's why they've been sticking with it, to try to develop that toughness, to develop that rhythm, to understand, hey, we've got all these running backs. How do we utilize them? So that'll be big. That can help take the crowd out of it some. Scoring can help take the crowd out of it. Big defensive plays can help take the crowd out of it. And so those pieces are going to be big. And then the last thing I want to get to, Ryan seemed really aggressive in this game. Couple of 4th downs, opening drive, 4th and 5.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're just trying to get that on tape. I don't know if I got run into Ryan. Like, you could feel that he wanted to kind of take the governor off this week.
Yep.
And let this thing go. And sometimes you got to get the rhythm, and maybe you have to be aggressive. And to me, when you go for on 4th and 5, Schlegs, does that mean you have more confidence in your offense or more confidence in your defense?
I think he completely had confidence in defense, but here's the deal. I think he wanted to give confidence to Kyle McCord because it just wasn't 4th and 5 and an easy throw. It was a throw for 7 to Emeka. Yep. All right. So it's like, hey, listen, I trust my quarterback. Go make it happen. Go make the play. And guess what? He made the play. And I think early on that set the tone. You are the man. Go make this play. You've done it. You're trained. You're prepared. Execute. And that's what you need when you go into a game like this.
Absolutely. It definitely needs to be big. Need to be able to get that done. I think he wanted to set the tempo. I think he wanted to send a message, give confidence to Kyle, but also knowing, hey, defensively, we're playing some pretty darn good football.
Yes.
And guys, if we don't get it, I know that they got our back. And that's the complementary style that you think that they need to have. And I love the fact that Jim Knowles went out there like, we're playing a team that's explosive. We don't have to go down there and try to hold them to 0 points. Let's make them drive it. Let's force them to kind of go down the field. Let's not give up big plays. You know what? Our offense will score. They'll get impatient. And that, Schlegs, was when those turnovers come. Great complementary football. But I think Ryan will be aggressive in this game. You saw it against Georgia. I think he understands what he needs to do in these big games. He'll never play tight again, and I'm excited to see it. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about some of the opportunities, a little bit of wagering that could be going on, Schlegs, from some of the different lines that are floating around out there for this big game this week in South Bend, Indiana. Buckeyes, Irish, the return trip to Notre Dame. All that coming up next. It's the Bobby Carpenter Show, featuring my man Anthony Schlegal right here on the Big Play Network. All right, back here on the Bobby Carpenter Show, featuring my man Anthony Schlegal. Big week, Notre Dame Fighting Irish week. Broke down the game a little bit. Now we're going to take a look at some of the different wagering opportunities we have. And this line has moved a lot. I saw it as high as 7.5 earlier in the week. It slid back down. I'm sure there'll be a lot of line movement. It looks like Tipico has it as Buckeyes -3, Notre Dame a home dog, Schlegs. How do you feel about being a 3-point favorite in South Bend?
I feel really good about it, honestly, because of the way our offense is playing right now and the way that our defense is playing. I mean, our defense, again, I would say probably similar opponents that we faced. And I think that defensively where we are right now and Brian's approach to this, unlike what the fans want, we just want everybody to be blown out and we got a brand new quarterback. Let's just smoke everybody. I think he treated these like 3 preseason games, and that's what you saw. And guess what? On the 3rd preseason game, they were clicking, and now they're going to go into South Bend. They will be tested. The line's at 3. I think the over-under is 54. And I really like Ohio State right now. I just think that they're playing with a chip and on their shoulder because of how they've been moved, and they haven't got kind of the respect that they think they may deserve. But you know what though? If you don't feel respected, you got to go take that respect. Nothing is given. Everything is earned. And guess what? This week is an opportunity to go take that respect back on a national stage in South Bend.
Well, so would you take the Buckeyes -3 then? You lay those points?
I'm laying those points for sure. I think they're going to win by 10, Bob. And now the hardest thing is because of the plays. Now remember, last year, Marcus had an inferior team, first-year head coach. He knew exactly what he had. He had some veteran guys on defense. They played really good defense. They were in that game really to the 4th quarter. Then our offensive line kind of took over in the 4th. We started running the football. And I believe in that game, I think they had 70-something yards rushing to our 170, 180, something to that effect.
I think you're correct.
But now these guys are a year older in that defense. He's a second-year guy. He has Sam Hartman, most importantly. However, I just like the way where Ohio State is in this. But with the clock, he's still going to do it. So I think that Ohio State's plays will be limited, just like I think it's going to be a faster type game. I see a 27-17. So I actually would take the points, and I would bet the under.
Yeah, I like so you're jumping the questions here.
I'm sorry, bro. I just went into it, but that's just my thoughts.
Listen, I appreciate your thoughts, but Steph said, just let it last a little bit. I mean, don't finish. I mean, it's not a race to the finish here, Schlegs. I mean, what are we talking about? So I'm with you. I lay the points. This seems like maybe a 10 to 11 point Buckeye victory. If it was 7.5, I'd be a little more squeamish on it. But Ohio State with Notre Dame playing well, they've got that 3-point line. Notre Dame being a home dog, there's not really a ton of concern about that for me. I do like him, I think, by more than a touchdown. I feel good about it. The over-under point total. You talked about taking the under.
Yep.
Total points set at about 63.5, 64 floating around in there. To me, you said 27-17. I would like that. I mean, heck, I'd like maybe a 34-35-17 game. That would feel a little bit better to me.
I feel really good.
I mean, that's like a nice warm bath, in the 4th quarter, you've got like a 10-point lead. You're driving the football to put like the nail in the coffin. But as I sit here and look at this, I think it might be a little more 35-24 game. I would still take the under. I don't think this is going to be a crazy explosive game because a lot of times, especially with a guy like Marcus, who he's going to want to slow this game down a little bit. He's not going to want to be ultra. I think they'll take shots, but I don't think he wants to try to race Ohio State to 50. That's not, I think, their method to victory. Even though they have Sam Hartman, they'll take selective shots, but they're not going to go out there and say, hey, how many points can we score? Let's try to outscore Ohio State.
No.
But it does seem to me in this game where I think both teams will probably have about 10 drives, maybe 11 series apiece. 35-24 feels a little better. It will get close to that over-under. That total point, but I still think that I would probably lean in on the under of this. And then lastly, Schlegs, if I had to say you had to put all of your earthly possessions and maybe
it's not a lot.
Well, we'll up the ante. I don't know. You got a pretty sweet farm, dude.
Yeah.
And let's take it up a notch. And your wife included as a concubine in this package. Who would you say is going to score a touchdown? One person that you're most confident in.
Emeka.
It's amazing you went there. Why Emeka?
Because I just think that, listen, man, you take away their greatest threat. It's a Belichick move, right? What is the one guy that you don't let him beat you? You take away Marvin. They're going to bracket him. Emeka's going to be open. Cade's going to be open. Like they're going to say, beat me with those other guys. You're not beating me with that guy. Now, here's the thing. I believe in that guy. However, based on what we did in this last game, and you saw it, Cade, wheel route to Emeka, they're going to start moving these guys around. And when they do that, and they're going to do that through motion. So Emeka might be the one, Marvin might be on the ball. He's going to motion in, and they're going to be like, okay, I'm bracketing now. He's number one. Boom, new number two.
Where'd he go? Where'd he go?
You know what, though? And Emeka scored on a zone coverage, on a spot route, on a spot. Like, but you know what? He has the feel for it. And that's what I'm just saying. Like, Marvin's the dog, right? We know he's the alpha, but guess what? On any other team in all of America, Emeka, they're like, oh, that's the best guy in the country. They're going back and forth because he's getting more looks. And so I just think in this game, I'd go with Emeka.
I was going to go there too because I think Marv gets one. But if you had to tell me without a doubt who's that guy, I think it is Emeka because they will lean into Marv to take him away.
Steph, I just bet you on Emeka.
My next guy probably would be Cade Stover because I think Kyle and him have a unique connection. You saw what he was able to do, and that's the seam down the middle. You probably get to that gold zone, the strike zone between the 20 and 30. You get Cade Stover on a seam when they're bracketing, the other safety's out, boom, right there in the middle of the field. I think that would feel pretty darn good. Coming up, we got some more.
Colorado. I'm sorry, you saw it in Colorado. They went to the right, boom, tight end over the middle.
Oh yeah, it's good. I mean, listen, it's tough. The tight end up the middle on play action when you have an elite receiver on the outside, incredibly hard to stop. You put so much pressure on those linebackers. All right, we'll be back in a real quick second here. We've got some more headlines around the NCAA. There was a ton of stuff that happened here, and we'll dive right into it next. It's Bobby Carpenter, Anthony Schlegal on the Bobby Carpenter Show. Bobby Carpenter Show back and coming at you. We're going around the college football landscape, taking a look at some of the headlines, some of the big games, because it wasn't just Ohio State playing this week. There were other teams, no ranked on ranked matchups, but that doesn't mean there weren't good games. Colorado and Colorado State, the battle out in the middle of our great nation. And you know what? You looked at it and thought, hey, this is a situation where Colorado should pull away. Everybody wanted to hammer, lay in the points, making sure that Colorado, you thought Dion would blow them out for sure, Schlegs, especially when Jay Norvell drops a line like this, the Colorado head coach talking about, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. Dion took offense to that. He thought he was going to lay a monster on him, and they tried. Give Colorado State credit, Schlegs. They did not back down. They took that thing to double overtime and were so close to pulling out a victory.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, Prime talked about it. Coach Prime talked about it afterward. Like, that was a direct, he took it as more of a direct reflection on his mom and how she raised him. And here's the deal. People don't like disruptors. I'll make this people do not like disruptors. Yep. Prime is a disruptor. The way he handled his roster, disruptor. Bringing people with him from Jack State, disruptor. Like, they don't like that. He's loud. But you know what, though? He's authentically him. That's the one thing. One of the things that Fickle said was, he learned was not to be Tress. He has to be authentically thick. And he learned that. He took it to Cincinnati. He's taken to Wisconsin, and he makes them. They're him. You know what else that does? It takes all the pressure off your coaches, takes the pressure off your players, because they're all focusing on him. They can just go do their job. And so you know what, though? You're going to have battles like that. They were tested, but guess what? Now you got 2 weeks where you're playing at Oregon and USC at home.
Absolutely. And I thought Dion, he's changed a lot of things. He's done it his way. He's been very impressive with how he's done it. But Colorado State punching up, almost getting it done. Looking out to the south, Alabama, South Florida, 17-3, a game that was tied 3-all at halftime. Yes. They start Tyler Buckner. Ty Simpson plays. Jalen Milroe doesn't play a snap. Alabama's got some problems, man. And listen, at the quarterback position, I think their offensive line is questionable. And I think Nick Saban's a great coach. And I'm not predicting the downfall of the Bama dynasty, but I don't believe this to be a great Bama team by Alabama standards.
Well, I mean, just look at what they had. They had Jalen Hurts, and went to Tua Tagovailoa, right? Then guy from Carolina. I just forgot his name.
Drake May.
What's that?
Carolina, Drake May?
No, the quarterback. He just went first round.
Oh,
I know. I blanked. I blanked on it. I don't even know, because my monster's kicking in. But anyways, here's the deal. At the end of the day, they have a quarterback issue, and we all know it's a quarterback-driven game. And so when you have that issue, you're going to go to South Florida. I think it was a little muddy. They had a rain delay. It was nasty, sloppy. That's what you get, man. You go down there. It's a hard-fought battle, but it is what it is.
They've got some issues they've got to take care of, and when you lose elite players always you think you're going to be able to replace them at Alabama. They haven't been able to do that quite to the level that you would have liked this year. And then one other game that was a lot tighter than people would have liked. Texas has the huge victory over Alabama last week. Now they welcome in Wyoming. It's 10-7 at halftime. Now they pull away 31-10 later, but man, it was 10-all in the third quarter going into the fourth. It didn't feel that good for Texas. So Buckeye fans, relax a little bit. This is how college football can work.
Yeah, Bray, guess what? His name is Bryce Young. I totally forgot. Brain fart, looked him up on the Google machine. But you're absolutely right, man. It's ebbs and flows of the game, but most importantly, you get the win. So they got tested. They beat Alabama. They come back. You have a hard-fought game against Wyoming. Guess what? Learn from the tape, correct it, get your mind right, on to the next. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but you got to win.
Short break coming up, and then our favorite segment each and every week where we answer your questions.
Yes.
What you want to know about the Buckeyes in college football. All that when we return. It's the Bobby Carpenter Show on the Big Play Network. All right, it's the favorite segment of the week for Schlegs Now, where we get to answer your specific questions on Ohio State football, college football, anything that's floating around. We throw it out there each week, Sunday on the Twitter machine. We love to hear, or the X machine, whatever it is. Schlegs loves the X, and we're going to take it to that level. And this is a good one, Schlegs, coming from at Zorns_Terry. It says, based on Notre Dame's offensive style, do you think Sonny Styles plays more than 70% of the defensive snaps? And I want to qualify that because you saw how much Jordan Hancock played, and really Sonny was in and out because he kind of plays that slot position because he's big enough. He's almost like an outside linebacker, but he's so fast. He has the DB skills. But with Notre Dame's offense being a little more run-centric, do you think he plays closer to three quarters?
Yes, and they have a 6'4" tight end that they utilize, right? So bigger people. You want to be able to set the edge, and you still also, just like we've had Dante Whitner, Bob, he played that star position for us. That's exactly what Sonny Styles plays. That's exactly what you're going to see in this game. It's going to be really a physical game, and he has the stature to be able to go set the edge.
Really does. And I think you're going to see him a lot more, especially if it becomes more run-centric, which I think they'll start leaning into that. That'll be a feel thing with Jim Knowles. And they call it matching likes, personnel to personnel. If you bring in, two tight ends, Sonny Styles is going to be in the game. If you have three wide receivers in there a lot more and you're throwing it, smaller guys, where you're going to match it with smaller people as well. So that's another thing that you're going to get going. Next question here coming from Mike Kallenberg. Do you prefer playing a tougher non-conference schedule or a lighter SEC non-conference schedule? And I think they're kind of indicating like what happened this year. However, if you look at it, played 9 conference games. They opened with Indiana, Schlegs.
Yeah.
They played Youngstown State. I'm not a huge fan of FCS opponents. Western Kentucky's a good group of 5 school. And then you're playing Notre Dame. So I don't think that this is that light of a schedule when you look at it.
No, and in today's, especially when the playoff expands, you're going to see more of this because all you got to do is be in the top 12. And you got to win your conference. And I don't know how they're going to do the seeding at the end of the year. Probably the conference champions will be 1 through 4. But I like it because, we had Texas our first year. That was the first good on good, 2 versus 4, I think, out there because everybody didn't want it because they wanted BCS and they wanted style points and all this crap. I think it just shows you where your team is. And I like to be tested so that we know how we can get better moving forward in the season. Because ultimately it's beat that team up north, win the Big Ten, and win a national championship out.
And then lastly, coming at us from Philip Riggs, 85. I like this one. Does Coach Day go aggressive like he did in the Rose Bowl and then last year's Peach Bowl loss, or more conservative and tight like he did in the last 2 editions of the game? And I'll start with this. I think he goes more aggressive. He talked about it last year. He knew that's his personality. That's what he has to be. You saw him talk about it this offseason. You saw a little bit of it against Western Kentucky. I think you see him take some shots early against Notre Dame, establish what they're going to do, try to hit him with some daggers, and then, like you said, Schlegs, take those body blows with the run game later in the game.
Yeah, I think he's gonna let it rip because why not, right? I think you got Maryland, you got somebody else, and you got Penn State. Just take them off, man. Let's freaking go because you're going to see some concepts that we haven't seen. You're going to see some other things off of personnel packages that we've seen, but they're going to be different movements. And he's now allocated all the pieces. He's given everybody a look at kind of what we do, but he's going to expand the package, and it's all going to come out based on his game planning this week.
Wouldn't you like your package expanded, Schlegs?
Oh,
I know that that's a big deal.
Coming up,
take a quick break. We'll wrap the show, give our parting thoughts, take a look potentially at what the score could be for that Notre Dame game, throw some other stuff out there, maybe answer another tweet question or two of stuff that's been thrown around. We got all that coming up as we wrap the show up. The Bobby Carpenter Show on the Big Play Network. All right, final segment here of the show. So excited we were able to spend some time together, Schlegs. We are 3 weeks in, and there's some good stuff going on. Ohio State's 3-0. The best part about being 3-0, well, it's the chance to be able to go 4-0. They've got the Fighting Irish coming up. How do you feel about how Notre Dame or about how Ohio State has fared through these first 3 weeks?
We had early concerns, and that's why they pay these guys a lot of money. Because I don't blame players, I blame coaches, and I go after coaches. And guess what? You are paid to coach. And I think they used each week as a stepping stone. It was 3 preseason games. Now you have your first regular season game. It's a test on the road at Notre Dame. I feel very good about it. I like where we are defensively. Guys, we've only given up 20 points on the year. That's fantastic. Just think back a couple years where we were terrible. Here now, 20 points in the game, first 3 games in the year. But again, this game, what I love to see is going to come down to toughness. It's going to come down to how can Ohio State Silver Bullet defense stop Notre Dame's rushing attack. That's it, man. Front 7, dude on dude, take their souls, right? Boom. That's it. That's what has to happen.
Well, you tell them to bring a bag, Schlegs, and people ask, why would you want to bring a bag to a game like this? Mm-hmm. The bag is where you keep the souls that you get on the field. You have to have some place to stuff them. All right. It's not like the Ghostbusters where you have the little deals and you can pull them and press the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They shoot down in there. You actually take the soul from the human, kind of like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. You rip it out of them till it go up top, and then you put the soul in the bag. And so that's what's going to have to happen. We can talk about Sam Hartman and throwing the football and all these different things. And Ohio State's going to make some big plays. Games like this, I'd liken Notre Dame to a similar team to Michigan. And you know this, it comes down, like you said, to toughness, the ability to win in the trenches. Yep. Can you do it on the offensive side? Can you do it on the defensive side? And whether that's through pass protection, definitely through run blocking, stopping the run up front, because there's going to be some 3rd and 1, some 3rd and 2s on both sides, some 4th downs that I think Ryan is going to have to go for. And Notre Dame and Marcus will as well. And how do you respond in that? And do you get big boyed, or can you move the line of scrimmage in your direction? So I'm very, very excited to ultimately see this. One other thing that was thrown out there, quick, Schlegs, and talking about Ryan using more play action. When the run game works, play action works better.
Yes.
Run game was cooking on Saturday. I think it'll be cooking against Notre Dame. It'll be a little tougher. You're not going to see 250 yards rushing because Notre Dame's defense is good. Put some respect on their name. But I know that Ryan loves complementary plays. And so when you can fake some things that have been working, draw those safeties up, hit Cade Stover down the seam. Yes. Maybe that goes to the strike zone and all that different stuff. So a lot of different things. This is the game right here to kick off what I view like the real start of the Big Ten season. Ohio State has a great chance to position themselves in the Big Ten and national title hunt with a victory here in South Bend. It's going to be a great one. Yes, I know you'll be locked in. We'll be locked in. It's a night game. It's at South Bend. It's going to be fantastic. Thank you for tuning into this edition of the Bobby Carpenter Show featuring my man, Anthony Schlegal, right here on the Big Play Network.